Welcome or welcome back. It's been a while, quite a while, like over a month. Life has kind of gotten in the way and we've been very busy. Too busy to be messing with cars here lately. But hopefully that's all going to change. Today we are going to recurve the Ford Duraspark 2 distributor that's in Kris Jr.'s engine. Here lately I've noticed that his car's been detonating a little bit. And by a little bit I mean a whole lot. It started here recently when a viewer on this channel, Lynn Running Deer, noticed that the car was slow starting. And he said, you've got too much timing, initial timing in the car. Now, that isn't possible. I set the timing myself. It was fine. It was 16 degrees or so. That can't be it. After I noticed how difficult it was to start, I started thinking that really does feel like the engine is trying to kick backwards against the starter. That could be a problem. So I noticed that the initial timing had gone up to like 20 degrees by accident. I probably just dialed the distributor a little too much or bumped it when I was tightening it down. No big deal. But then I noticed it was still detonating after I dialed it back to 16 degrees and 14 degrees, 12 degrees, 10 degrees, 8 degrees. Starting to see a pattern here, aren't you? And the only reason I realized it was detonating is because when I was trying to fix the rear end, I was having to drive around with the windows up because you really can't hear it with the windows down. The air noise, the road noise, the exhaust, you really can't hear the detonation very well. But once I started noticing it and really paying attention, I realized it was not going very well. No matter how low I turned down the initial timing, the car was still detonating under load at wide open throttle. I turned the timing all the way down to the point it would barely start and run. And once it got moving, wide open throttle, it was detonating still. So that got me looking at the Duraspark 2 distributor. And I noticed that the total timing in the engine under wide open throttle of above about 3,500 RPMs was off the charts high. The balancer on the engine's only marked from 0 to 40 degrees before top dead center. And at wide open throttle, it was off that chart, up over 50-ish or something like that. He's staring at me, isn't he? So that led me to start taking apart the distributor. What I did not realize is that these distributors come with a 16L and a 21L timing advance, meaning you take that number, whatever it's staked to, and you double that. So 21 is 42 degrees of initial timing, which is what it appears that our car may have, which is a little bit of a problem, just a little bit. So what we're going to do today is we're going to take the distributor apart, we're going to take the advance plates, and we're going to weld them closed halfway to where we can control the amount of advance that we get. The plan is to take the 16L slot and weld it halfway closed to make it an 8L size slot, which would give us 16 degrees of timing advance. Then if we want to run 16 degrees initial timing, we're going to have 32 total timing. If we run 18 degrees, we're going to have 34 degrees total timing, etc. and etc. And yes, I know we could get away with more than that. We're going to experiment with it. We're probably also going to go ahead and weld up the 21L side halfway, so we get 10 to 10.5. Then we can have 20 to 21 degrees advance if we want. So while we've got it all apart, we'll just go ahead and weld up both sides just to be safe, and then we can kind of experiment with it. Lucky for us, we have 3 Ford Duraspark 2 distributors here. We have the one that's in this engine right now, which we don't have to touch right now. We have the one that was in this engine, that's going to go in my car, that we're going to experiment on today. And then we've got our older one that's kind of a parts piece that we kind of experiment on. And that's how I learned that we have the 16L and 21L timing slots in there, because that's the same part number as the 2 distributors we're currently running. I've already taken the old distributor apart and shown him the inner workings and how it works and everything, and shown him what we're going to do. But we're going to go now, we're going to go ahead and take apart the newer distributor and go ahead and weld it up and get this experiment going. Enjoy. All right, Junior and I finally got the distributor apart. This newer model distributor isn't marked at all, but it looks just like this one. Looks like a 16L and a 21L. It's hard to tell which one is which. That's the 16. So this one's staked on the 16. There's the 21. So we've got to get that apart, and we are gonna get that welded and hope for the best. All right, so Junior and I taking this thing apart. We've gotten down to the piece that we need to weld. Do not be like me and drive these two roll pins out of the bottom of the distributor gear and strip the distributor completely just to get this top piece off. That would be stupid. Stupid like me, because I just did that, which was dumb. Don't do that. Just pull the screw out the top and slide off the piece up here so you can have your distributor apart so you can start welding on it. Here are the two pieces we're going to weld, and since they're not marked on this one, I think this is the bigger one, the 21L, and this is the 16L, but it's really hard to tell for sure. So we're going to use a micrometer to measure them, and then we're going to mark them in the middle, and we're going to weld them shut. I'm going to go ahead and just do both of them at one time, and then that way if we want to experiment with it, take it back apart and change some things, we can. So this is 13.5 millimeters. This is 16.2. We're going to mark them right in the middle, make a little indentation, and then we're going to weld them up. So we're going to weld the front half of this where the pointers are, and we're going to do both of them. Here's the first pass on the first side. I know it looks absolutely horrible. My welding hood is dead, so I'm just having to do it completely blacked out without being able to see what I'm doing. And we can no longer see the mark that is halfway, but it's roughly halfway. Right, there's both sides of them done. I don't know why this side was much easier and smoother. This side was a nightmare. I don't know what the difference was. I made no changes, but I couldn't get anything to stick on this side. Now I've got to get the grinder. I've got to grind all this off and make it look normal again. Here's the finished product. This is probably the worst welding job and grinding job and distributor recurve in the history of all mankind, ever, anywhere. It is absolutely hideous and disgusting. In fact, I need to grind that back a little smoother. However, check this out. This is the amount of timing we've got. This is 7.8 millimeters, which is about half of what it was, and that is 7 millimeters. Slightly more than half of what it was, but I think, no, that's a lot less than half. And this is slightly less than half. So anyway, I have no idea how many degrees that's going to get us, but it's going to be less than it had before. So we're going to put it in the car and try it. All right, we've got it all back together the way it was, except I've got to tap the reluctor wheel back into place, and we'll be ready to test this thing out. All right, here it is, fully assembled again. In theory, this should work just fine. Props to Kris Jr. for paying attention. He was definitely paying attention, because I forgot how a couple of things went on, and he told me how they went on and pointed everything out, pointed out the mistakes, and got this thing back together. Good job, the boy.
He's an old man. Your memory's going down.
You're a terrible son. So we're going to throw this thing on and just see what happens. Junior's going to stab in this distributor. The pointer was pointing over here at the T and the U on the caution, on the fan. Just going to re-stab that thing, tighten it back down, and we're going to go test drive this thing and see what happens. All right, give it 2 pumps and fire it up. See where this distributor needs to be. There we go. All right. Well, that's a good start. It's a good sign. Nothing exploded or blew up or anything. So we'll get this thing timed and see what it looks like. All right, it's between 16 and 18, somewhere in there, probably closer to 18 right now. Let's see what it does when we give it full throttle. Rev it up, boy! Well, boy, it looks like we got 30 to 32 degrees total timing. So it's a little less than I wanted. So I think we'll just crank up the initial timing a little bit more and go see what it does, all right? All right, with my eyeballed welding and grinding, I've now got the thing up to about 20 degrees initial and 34 total, which 34 is really good. 34 to 36 is really good. Probably take a little more, but we want to be safe. We want this thing to not detonate, right? Let's see how hard the starter kicks back against the engine at 20 degrees initial. It didn't. Fired up really well, so let's go see what this runs like. We'll get a little heat in it and go do some full throttle pulls and see whether it's dead on the top end from lack of timing or whether it's good. Hopefully it's not going to detonate. Well, so far we've definitely got our little bit of low-end grunt back from the 20 degrees initial timing. It was not liking having to be down at 8, 10, 12. It seems to like 20. It really likes to light up the tires here. Now let's go out and see what happens. Some wide open throttle pulls. Oh yeah, that's good. No detonation at all. All right. There we go, all the way to red line. No detonation, good smooth pull. You know what? We also don't have that hard miss that we had before. I wonder if that was just too much timing too quick. The advance hitting too fast, and that's what that was. Running really well. Fifth gear, 45 miles an hour for 1500 RPMs. Nice smooth acceleration. I think a big problem we had with this thing bucking and jerking and driving like crap and hesitating at wide open throttle was, I think the timing was hitting too fast, too hard, 50 plus degrees, causing us a big problem. And it's not doing that anymore. This is downright pleasant to drive. Things have been going well. We're going to turn it off, see if it's hard to start once it's warm, and let's see what happens here. Off. Nope, fired right up. It's not kicking back against the starter any. 20 degrees initial seems to be where it's happy. I like it. We might be a couple of degrees short, 2 to 4 degrees short on the top end. It does get a little bit lazy over 4500, but it's safe. It's still pulling really hard. Most importantly, it's not detonating, which means this thing can live a nice, long, happy life. Who would have thought it enjoys 32 to 34 degrees timing more than 54 degrees, right? Crazy.
That's what I'm saying.
Weird. Just super, super weird. If you'd asked me before this, is there such thing as too much timing? I'd have said, of course not. Don't be weak. But I figured I want this thing to live for a long time, so I guess we'll let it be a little weaker. that's it for the most part. I think we're done here. Oh my God, I think this video was under 30 minutes. Crazy. I was very disappointed in myself that I didn't look into these distributors more before building this engine. Really disappointed in myself that I've been driving this thing around this way for far too long and could have blown this engine up. I don't think he would have liked that very much. I'm much happier now. It's running strong, it's running smooth, it's got plenty of power, and hopefully it's going to run a long time. Thank you very much for watching. I'm sorry this wasn't an instructional video. We just couldn't go through this second by second to show you everything with all the little bitty teeny tiny parts. There's a lot of good instructional videos on YouTube you can watch how to recurve this distributor. I had to do it. I don't know everything. You know, I wasn't sure what I was getting to exactly. I had to refresh my memory before I did this, and I'm glad I did, because there are a few things that I messed up, and I begrudgingly admit that someone here was a pretty big help getting the distributor back together. Almost forgot to mention, we haven't made a video since Junior here got his beginner's permit. He is now a legally licensed driver here in the state of Texas. Scary. And now I think we're going to go out and have a quick driving lesson before it gets too dark in his car. Thanks for watching. We appreciate it.